Hello and welcome to this LFC Animate. On this most difficult of punctuations, the apostrophe. Maybe so far in your career as a student, you may think to yourself, what is the point in this? Well, it comes down to one very simple thing, and that is competence. And at GCSE, it tells the marker if you are of C-grade material or not. Certainly, if you're going to university, you should be able to use this piece competently, and it isn't really that difficult. So, what is the apostrophe? Well, there are two uses for the apostrophe. And one of them is we'll do the first one first because it's very easy, the contraction. And contraction really is just as it says, and that is that you take a word like does not and you contract it, so it becomes doesn't. That means kind of smaller. And the apostrophe goes over the letter that is missing. So in this case, does not, the O goes, and you have doesn't. Equally with cannot, you've got can't, and with will not, you've got won't. That doesn't really cause students too many problems. The only times I see, times I do see it as a problem is when students put an apostrophe over or between the wrong letters. So let's talk about this other apostrophe, and that is what is sometimes known as the greengrocer's apostrophe, and that's because it's not all just greengrocers, but often if you go into a greengrocer's or you're wandering around a market and you see a greengrocer's stall, the greengrocer is famous for writing something like tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, and for each of those words there's an apostrophe at the end. Essentially, it is wrong. They've got it wrong. What they've done is they have put in an apostrophe on every word that ends with an S, and we should know better. But perhaps it's helpful because I can ask this question: why is there this problem? Why is it such a problem? Well, I think it comes down to the fact that in English, we have the S sound at the end of words for two reasons. One of them is, say for example, and I'm going to continue the greengrocer image, I have a word like cauliflower. I have two of those and it becomes cauliflowers. Just as I have a greengrocer and I have more than one and it becomes greengrocers. So I put an S at the end of the word to show that it is more than one. Another way of talking about that is to say that it is plural. But if I have a phrase like greengrocer's apostrophe, and I ask you, is the greengrocer one or more than one? I think you'll agree with me that it is just one. So we have that S sound at the end here because the apostrophe belongs to the greengrocer. It is an apostrophe of possession. And for that reason, at the end of the word greengrocer, you need apostrophe S. And that is really that. And there's an easy test that you can do whenever you have a word in a sentence with an S at the end, or with an S sound at the end of it. You can ask yourself this question: is the word a plural? So, for example, we have the word bum, B-U-M. Then we have the word bums. Clearly here, with the second word, bums, we have more than one. So we put the S at the end. However, in this phrase, Kim Kardashian's bum, we have Kardashians. And just as I asked you before, is there one Kardashian or is there more than one? I think you'll agree with me there is only one, so therefore in this case we have possession. We have the bum belonging to Kim Kardashian, and another way of saying that is Kim Kardashian's bum. Okay, so now we're going to hit the three difficulties there are with apostrophe, so brace yourself. What happens if the thing possessing has an S already at the end? So if we take the most famous spy in Britain, James Bond, we have his first name, and there is an S at the end. So we have James's woman, James's arch enemy, and James's car. Well, students, particularly at GCSE, are likely to put the apostrophe between the E and the S. But this would be wrong, because there you do that and you're actually saying that instead of being called James Bond, he is actually Jame Bond, which is a very different type of secret agent, I think. So what you need to do here is all you need to do is put that little dash, that apostrophe, at the end of the word. And that's the first problem, done. The second problem, what happens if the thing that is possessing, the thing that owns the object, is a plural? So let's put this another way. I have a dog. He has a bowl. It's the dog's bowl. Okay, we have one thing owning the bowl, but what happens if I have lots of dogs? Well, just as with James, I've got the S at the end of the word. I just put the apostrophe after the S. So far, so good, I hope. So now we come to the most difficult of the exceptions to do with apostrophes. And these are to do with certain rather unusual words in English. If I give you the word dog, for example, if I make that a plural, we have dogs. One dog, many dogs. But what happens with the word fish or deer or species or tooth? Let's take that word tooth. If I want to make it a plural, I don't add the S, I add teeth. So let's have a think about this with an example. I'm a farmer and I have a flock of sheep. It's wet, it's raining hard, and their coats are getting wet. So I have the sentence, the sheep's coats are wet. Now, sheep belongs to that group. I'm hoping you can see that I've just mentioned, because I have one sheep, but if I have a load of sheep, I don't add the S at the end. Now, the problem here, I think, is that students don't like this. They don't recognise that it's an irregular plural. And so what they want to do is they want to put an S at the end of that word sheep. So they put an S at the end and they treat it like our dog's bowl example, and they put SHEEPS apostrophe. It's wrong. Sheep in the plural is sheep, just as it is in the singular. So what you need to do is spell the word, be it fish, deer, or teeth, and then add the apostrophe S. Let's look at this with another example. So I have everyone's favourite postman in England. I think he's called Pat.
Postman Pat, Postman Pat.
Postman Pat hates one particular time of year, which would be Christmas. Why does he hate that time of year? Well, it's simple. He hates it because that's when he has to do most carrying of heavy bags. So we can say the postman's bag is heavy at Christmas. Let's look at this then. So have we got possession? We do. The bags, or the bag. Who does the bag belong to? Well, it belongs to the postman. And clearly here you can see we've got that S sound at the end of postman. We add the apostrophe S. But the question here will be, what happens if we're not just talking about Pat, we're talking about Pat's postie friends, so, I don't know, Peter, Paul and Penelope. What happens when we say the postmen's bags are heavy? Well, just as we had with the sheep example, we've got the same thing going on with postman. Perhaps you can spot that the plural here goes from postman to postmen. So we don't add an S, we just change the A to an E. Just as with the sheep example, students don't like this, and they want to add an S at the end to make it to make it a regular plural. So we have postmen's apostrophe. Again, it is wrong. It needs to be postmen apostrophe S. That is the competence that you need. That is the competence that AQA, EdXL, Cambridge want to recognise. That's the competence you will need to get that C grade. I hope you've been able to follow this. Thank you.